Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Loads of drama in the esports world yesterday, and especially affecting the potential future of the Los Angeles Guerrillas here in the CDL. Their ownership company, the Guard, decided to refuse their spot in the Valorant League yesterday in what seems to be that team entirely shutting down and dissolving out of esports. The Los Angeles Gladiators in the Overwatch League and the Los Angeles Guerrillas here in the CDL might well have a similar future coming in store. Could we possibly be back to an 11-team league that was even rumoured going into the 2022 season after the OpTic and Envy merger? Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, I just wanted to say, I don't know what they're going to do with these maps going into Modern Warfare 3, but for Modern Warfare 2, they're still making new maps. It just does make me wonder, like, have Sledgehammer already made all those throwback MW2 maps and they're already ready to go? And if they've got extra time, because, you know, still the developers, Infinity Ward or whatever, are still banging out maps for, you know, further maps in Modern Warfare 2. Not like they're going to be played in competitive anymore, but there was this one they're coming out with, a few of the screenshots from this. So just wonder, because it's been a big talking point for the new game, is it only going to be those 16 maps of MW2 originally? Because Scump has said that that's kind of a lazy way to do it, right? Only throwback maps coming in. And to be fair, it's not super likely that that many of them will actually be viable for competitive. So the more the merrier, I suppose. This isn't going to be one of them unless Sledgehammer miraculously bring this one over. So yeah, I don't know. This reminded me a little bit of Vertigo. I don't know if you guys know Vertigo from Black Ops 2. I think it was like in the first DLC or something. It looks kind of like this inside. So I thought it was a little bit similar enough. Oh, they had the Lodestar hanging from the ceiling as well. Damn. Treg made some good games back in the day. They still do, to be fair. Now, the new game will be revealed pretty much around CoD next, I think, which is October the 5th is when they're going to do, I think, their multiplayer reveal. And then October the 6th is when the beta starts. So that's kind of our timeline as it stands. But between now and then, it's quite likely we're going to have some serious update on the side of the CDL and, well, potentially the YouTube deal coming into fruition. I did see this going around yesterday that even like the EU Challengers viewership or something, I know there were some drops on this, right, in the contenders, but that was on Twitch. That was getting more viewership than the actual average Overwatch League viewership on YouTube right now. So this is the thing, like, I don't think YouTube would have been that stupid to look at all the numbers on Twitch last season and say, oh yeah, we're just going to get all of those numbers here on YouTube. Like, that's not really how it works, especially if the Scum watch party isn't the same. But yeah, we think they signed the deal. Hex said a few weeks ago now that it's basically a done deal. But you know, we thought that back in February when all the rage was at the Major 2 last year in February that we were going back to YouTube with immediate effect. That never happened, but more than likely it just got delayed until pretty much now. So that's an update we might get soon. This though is another big one. So there's 3 teams in the league that we have no idea what they're doing in terms of rosters. Yes, there's been rumors about Los Angeles Guerrillas, Clay Attach +2. We talked Clay Attach Stanley Nero. We talked about some other options there, but there's not been any leaks from anyone to this effect. It's just, you know, a theory as to what might make sense for those teams. Vegas, we have no idea. London, we have no idea, and they will bide their time. I mean, Vegas have been the poverty org, and you know, London are pretty much in the same boat now. And to be fair, Guerrillas might be in the same boat as well, if they even go again for this season, which is not exactly guaranteed. So Jacob L said a few days ago now, like 3 teams are still not done, or even, you know, I'm sure they have some idea. But you guys probably remember back in February, this is on February the 23rd, but even I think it was slightly earlier than that, that the Guard, the organization that owns the Guerrillas, and Stan Kroenke owns that, and he got into esports a few years ago, pretty much because Bobby Kotick said to him, yeah, like this Overwatch League, it's really going to blow up in the next few years. You want to get involved right now. And, you know, we know how that's turned out. Well done to all involved with Activision Blizzard. So some of these guys have, and for good reason, been kind of scared away from esports. And at the start of February, the Guard released, like, all of their staff pretty much. They went down to a pure skeleton crew with like probably just one social guy and just the teams. They did keep their teams around, but they pretty much decided, you know what, we're going to entirely scale back our esports operation and, you know, bring it to an end by the end of the season. And that's now what we have seen transpire with the Guard in Valorant, and we'll see that in a second. But the Los Angeles Guerrillas, under the same ownership group, the rumor was in February, they will, you know, scale everything back and are at serious risk of shutting down if a buyer can't be found. Now, we don't believe that a buyer has been found for this CDL spot. I'm sure you can understand why. Who wants to buy it right now for the price they want to be selling at? So, you know, the option is maybe there's a contract in their clause with the CDL that says, look, you just have to field the roster. There is no way around it. If you can't sell the spot, you will be paying the 50k minimums to 4 players and, you know, going with it from there. And I guess having a coach to have as your substitute and all this. So that's probably what is still the most likely outcome. But, you know, you can't rule out the possibility of Guerrillas just trying to shut down, because they're going to get out of esports as soon as is possible, and that was pretty much confirmed yesterday by what's going on in the Valorant side. Now, I'll go into all the detail and nuance in this video in a video I'll make on my Valorant channel, which is probably already live. Actually, it will be live by the time this video goes live, but because there's a lot to this story from the Riot Games side and also from the other side. But really what I wanted to touch on is from the Guard side, because as an organization, the Guard won the Ascension, and this is why there was so much promise around the Valorant format for their partnership league. They don't have a franchise league where you have to pay to get in. They choose their partners, and actually the partners get paid as stipends, but in return they, you know, give a lot back to the league and all this stuff. And it's not like Riot's strapped for cash, you know, they make all this money from the skin sales and stuff like this. And in addition to this format, which seems pretty good on paper, teams in challenges can actually qualify for the league in the various leagues around the world. So the teams would fight through challenges, they would then qualify for an Ascension tournament, and if they win Ascension, then they qualify for a 2-year stint in the main league. Not as an official partner team, but pretty much they should get the same benefits there. So on paper, it's a pretty good model compared to the other franchise esports models we have seen so far over the last several years. So the Guards, their team, won Ascension. They qualify for the league, but they didn't sign the team participation agreement that apparently, like, most teams signed this, and okay, maybe the agreement wasn't great for the kind of Ascension teams compared to the actual partner teams, but I think it was still pretty good, and they've said, no, we're not signing that, we're not coming in. The big backlash of this really has been the response from Riot by not putting any spot instead, as they say, like, okay, unlucky you didn't sign it, we're not getting anybody else in, so the players get screwed over, and that's what I'll go into more detail on the Valorant channel. But I think what's more relevant to this discussion is that the Guards declined it, right? They've said, no, we're not going to come in. We, you know, we failed to meet the deadline, and the Guards said, oh, you know, this is unexpected and all this, but I mean, look, it's pretty obvious what's going on. They want out of esports, Stan Kroenke wants out of esports, and this is part of the plan. Not even going to bother competing in the partnership league, even though they've qualified for it and they probably would make money doing so. They just want to get out of esports entirely. That's how I read this, and obviously it's not encouraging for any other challengers players in Valorant, but also even in the CDL side and other esports. You're like, well, Valorant, if anything, is the model that many people would quite like to see be the case in other esports, and yet already they're making some highly questionable decisions. So there was some reaction to this, of course, from the COD staff as well, and even after Leah Farrier of Riot Games gave his response to this, you know, David Carbabalo drops the mega L here in the replies, and, you know, it seems like the Guard have basically either run out of money because Stan Kroenke doesn't want to bother anymore, and therefore it's time to go. There was even some discussion on this from Richard Lewis, and as he says, like, just admit KSE, so Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, just wants out of all esports, and management gambled the players' futures on finding a miracle windfall to keep the esports fantasy alive, but it didn't happen. So yeah, Richard Lewis's read on it is that KSE want to be gone, and that's their plan, to just dip out of esports entirely. And even Rod Slasher Breslau's take on this is that he decided to kill his esports org, screwing over teams, employers, partners, because his boy Bobby Kotick torpedoed the Overwatch League into failure. So yeah, so of course that was the further response to Riot. But this seems to be the key piece of the puzzle, that if we had any doubts that the Guards were going to stay around, then it seems like they're going to be gone. Now, this most recent season, the belief was that the contracts that were currently in place had pretty much been terminated in some sense. Like Arcetes, we don't believe his 3-year deal, his 2+1 year deal with the Los Angeles Guerrillas has actually been maintained. It seems like that deal is now over, and they're pretty much going into poverty org status. Now, as I say, the question is, can they just leave? And can they just say, you know what, we've had enough of this, we're out? Or do the CDL, Activision, which they probably do, have something in place that says, you can't do that. You find a buyer that we're happy with, or you've got to stick around. That's the rules of engagement. But clearly they will want to be gone as quickly as is possible, and it seems like they're actually taking a loss, right? Because the Guard, by not accepting that partnership agreement to join the franchise league, the partnership league, they're losing the financial incentives and the stipend that the team gets. So they're actually taking a loss, it seems, to dissolve their organization and get out of here. So you could also argue that they might want to just take a loss on their CDL spots, sell it to someone for barely anything compared to what they paid for it, just to get out of here entirely. Kroenke has apparently had enough of this, and I don't necessarily blame him, but the way they've gone about it is definitely not the best. So it then raises the question, is an 11-team league a possibility again? This was a big talking point in end of 2021. The merger had just happened between OpTic, well, Chicago as it was at the time, and Dallas Empire. That left one spot up for grabs. Los Angeles Thieves had just come in the previous year, buying out the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles spot from Immortals, and we then needed somebody else coming in. Washington Esports Ventures, you guys probably remember the Washington Demon Cats that was meant to be this CDL team. I think they were going to sign Methods in that, but that never happened. They pulled out, and we needed somebody else to come in. Thankfully, at least, Robert Kraft, who might have similar opinions to Stan Kroenke at some point in the future over at Boston Breach, he comes in, he makes the Boston Breach, and it turns out we do get 12 teams. But it was a concern. I think even Hastro said that an 11-team league going into 2022 was not out of the realms of possibility. And now you have to wonder whether that's still potentially on the cards. What would that mean for the league as well? Like, can we even run it with 11 teams? Is there something in place that says, Guerrillas, no, you can't do that. You literally have to still compete and field some sort of roster until someone buys you out or the league just collapses, which is probably going to happen in the coming years anyway. So it's a bit of a mess. But even let's say Los Angeles Guerrillas do continue as an organization and it goes on kind of business as usual, because even the latter half of this season, it was quite clear the organization didn't care about their success in the CDL and pretty much just riding it into the ground. And unfortunately, the players, I imagine, will have that perspective as well going forwards, even if they're still around next year. And this is the issue, that if you're players like Clay or like, for example, Attach, that might want to go to that team, you're not going to be able to get the big salaries they were paying previously. They're going to be paying, absolute bare minimums if they even are still around in the league going into next season. And that might be okay, but, they're going to do everything they can to not spend any penny more, I imagine, Los Angeles Guerrillas, if they even still exist. So it does make it a little bit complicated for the likes of Clay and Co, especially because I'm sure Clay would quite like to sign a contract now. In an ideal world, he'd get that deal done, because, Clay has interest from orgs and from certainly other players to play with him going forwards. So you'd think that's the case, but London, Vegas, and now probably Guerrillas won't be signing any of these deals until many months from now, right? They will be trying to pay the absolute bare minimum, and therefore it doesn't seem likely these teams are going to get locked in for quite some time to come, which seems like it's pretty much going to screw everybody over. So that's the analysis as it stands for now. And look, if the guy want out of Valorant, they obviously want out of the CDL as well. What it means for the Overwatch League as well, I don't really know exactly, but that league, if anything, is even in a worse spot than the CDL is. So it ain't looking so good. And as I say, once Los Angeles Guerrillas leave or collapse or whatever, it's therefore that is going to reverberate through some of the other teams and owners and investment groups and venture capital firms to say, is this actually a good idea? Which it doesn't seem to be. But maybe by the time they come up with that realization, Microsoft come in, change the model of the CDL, and maybe it all works out okay. But, people are going to get burnt along the way, unfortunately, is the reality of the situation. So very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.